All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Lauren coming at you from the break zone with another set review. This one being Wind, and well, let's get started. Actually, I'm just gonna check real quick if the stream is going on. I should really just leave it as that. There you go. Seems like the stream's live, so we're good to go. All right, so Ilaria does refer to Chelinka and Yuri, so let's take a look. All right. There's a Shalinka over here, which is a pretty darn good card. We'll go over it in a little bit. And Yuri, counting as every element except for Dark, is also a very darn potent card. I'm sure glad that I got all those pre-release promos of Yuri so that I have my playset already. Being a mother is actually relevant as, let's see, mother. All right. Uh, this hope and wind also refers to mother and father. There's some of those jobs we've referred to before. In fire, there's a father, I think it's Latov, and Ilaria is a mother. So there's definitely different ways to trigger hope. And in this case, Ilaria being a 3 CP backup with EX burst, that's also a searcher. That's pretty darn good. Being able to search out for those two cards makes it more restrictive, but Yuri is a huge card. Chelinka can be built around. So this card is darn good. All right, let's go over Anhandlum. Darn, I can't really say that name properly. Anhandlum. Okay. Also, Crystal Chronicles. So keep in mind when we talk about Chelinka. Oh, darn it! I should have just Chelinka. There we go. That's gonna boost it. So you can't use any of these abilities unless you control both, control Chelinka or Yuri. So hopefully you have Chelinka because all of a sudden this 2 CP backup will be able to deal 3,000 damage every time you duel it for that first effect. And if you control both Chelinka and Yuri, you'll be able to deal, well, that's going to be a 3,000 damage because it gets a 1,000 damage boost from Chelinka over here. So that's going to be pretty good. All right, Alexander, still not the relevant summon. I was listening to other set reviews for Wind, including the RVA guys. And yeah, this is, I mean, this is, yeah, it's 2 CP, it's EX burst, that sounds great, but you look at the effect, it is so restrictive. Bounce effects, like return cards that return cards to your opponent's hand, sends them back, obviously, a little bit. But it's restrictive as it has to be a forward of cost 5 or more. Yeah, it can be your, well, actually, opponent control, so it can't even be your own. You normally don't want to return like a Sid Allstein to your opponent's hand. I mean, obviously, there's going to be other fours that would be good to return to your opponent's hand. And as an EX burst, you can break it instead. That's kind of cool, but I mean, the times where it's going to actually fire properly are going to be a lot lower than the times that it misfires if it fires at all. Like for the most part, you're going to discard it for CP. That's what it feels like. 5 CP forwards aren't used that much against Wind because there's obviously, wait, Diabolos, not Diablos, but Diabolos. This card is in just about every Wind deck you can think of, and at 5 CP, there's always just so much value to be had. Whether you're able to use the choose forward of cost 5 or more and a 4 or more, or you use this the first effect for 5 or more and reactivate all your backups when you have a couple of backups out. Up to like let's say 3 or 5 backups playing Diablos, you'll be able to just do just so much, get so much value. So when playing against Wind, and due to this card, 5 CP forwards are not quite as popular unless they have an immediate effect such as Sid Allstein that is just so game breaking that even if you were to get rid of it afterwards, it would still have been worth it. I don't see this card being played at all. Okay. Vada being one of those wind cards where you get to reactivate a bunch of wind backups afterwards. Keep in mind that this will reactivate all your wind backups. So if you had 5 backups out and used 1 to pay for either 1 CP something, or like a Layak or Cactuar, or use it for playing for example, well, I won't really say Diablos, but being to play card after card. There's a lot of little chain effects you could do and live the dream, right? Like, so you play a Diablos and you have Bards to reactivate all your win characters, including your backups, and you have what was her name again? Let's see, wind backups. Trying to remember. It's been a little while since I took a look at that card, and there you go, Kanisena to reactivate. So you go from like a Diablos, a Kanisena, a Bards, and a Vada, and then you just kind of flood your board and everything. But obviously, you need to have like, you hope to have 3 to 5 backups out. In case of Vada, maybe like just 4 is enough, and be able to do all these things. I mean, there's even, well, Pain maybe not as much, but could still be used to reactivate your backups if one of them is Riku. On top of that, there's definitely shenanigans to be had if you want to make this part of mill deck where you keep reactivating Riku and using her. It sounds cool, but keep in mind that milling is takes more effort. It's something more like a secondary win condition, and attacking and forcing your opponent to and dealing 1 point of damage to your opponent is technically milling them 1 card. So I wouldn't, for the most part, mill is nice to have as a backup strategy, especially nowadays that Vikings are so prevalent, and your opponent might draw a whole lot of cards. Being able to mill is not too far off, is a possibility, but Vada is a cool card, and I don't know if I'd want to go all in on being able to reactivate win backups turn after, like just multiple times in one turn. Turn after turn wouldn't be too bad. Leaves you your backups open in order to respond to your opponents, which is pretty darn cool. Do I like this card? I think it's alright. It's gonna have its place here and there. Is it gonna be in a lot of decks? Maybe not, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see it in some decks. Well, maybe not too many though. Alright, Dancer. So category 5, keep that in mind. So it might look similar to, I think I've seen some jokes on Facebook too about it too, that hey look, you know, like, hey, which one would you rather have, right? So they do the same thing, they cost the same, but they're different categories. So you would make a difference in title series, and the fact that this card was not in Opus 7 that made a difference in Sealed that this card existed. But even in Sealed, I didn't see this card very much. It's pretty cool though. But being able to deal 1,000 damage to all forwards opponent controls does open up some windows to deck building, such as let's see, Orlandu, and I can't even spell it. Let's see, Orlandu. I was pretty sure I was spelling it right, but let's see. Saint. There you go, Sword Saint, right? Orlandu. Oh, do E A. Well, why didn't I spell it in French? It would just have been so much better. Anyways, so it does open up some ways to play around it to actually do some cool tricks, but it is a 3 CP backup that doesn't have an immediate effect, and 1,000 damage is pretty nice, especially since it doesn't target. But there are still things that exist like Dada Luma, which I can't spell either. Alright, which, whoops, let's do that again. There we go. Which could definitely hurt if you trigger it off, because, yeah, some of your fours might not be that big, or if they have a Cactuar or another way, or Semolifina to go along with the Luma, if they take 1,000 damage, it will trigger the second part, because it doesn't target. And after that, being able to do like a Cactuar on the Dalaluma or Semolifina effect in order to deal it another 1,000 damage, would be able to deal 4,000 damage to your opponent, possibly to your forward, possibly, in terms of for a total of 8,000 damage. Wait, did I say it correctly? 4,000 damage for 2 instances of 4,000 damage for a total of 8,000 damage. Okay. Next up, we've got Ranger. Pretty cool. It does remind me of, was it also called Ranger? I think it was in Fire. It does remind me of this little Ranger guy a little bit. Being able to break, let's see, if you put this in a Wind Earth deck and are able to pay for it with 1 Wind and 1 Earth CP from backups, being able to get that value out of it to break an opposing monster is pretty nice. There are some interesting monsters out there, Jasper definitely being one of them, but more monsters came out in this set that are pretty cool, like, was it Maruna? Which also is less 3 CP or less, so it'd be able to break it. Being able to attack, deal an extra 2,000 damage, deal 2,000 damage to an opposing forward is nice as well. Could come off with some things, but I don't know if I'll see this card that much. It is a little bit interesting. It's got a lot of cool tricks to it, but I don't know if it fits the meta right now. All right, Kelger, love this guy. All right, let's see, non-warriors. And I can't even spell warrior correctly. Okay. And that should do an exact match. There we go, much better. All right, you've got all these awesome non-warriors to go with. Also this Kelger, and it does have a special, so you know, if you draw into this one after you already played this one, then you can still use it. I do love this art though. The effect is amazing. Being able to just straight out play it forward from your deck when you reveal 5 is just so much value. I mean, if it's a successful reveal and trigger, the lowest value you could get is Dorgan, which is still 3+2 for the card itself. That's 5 CP's worth, so almost like a 1 CP 8K. It's just bonkers, especially in the same element. But there's definitely chances that people are playing and will be playing like a combination of wind and earth. And if it's in wind, you also have this Dorgan available, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But be able to play like Galuf, which I really like the card. The art is amazing. I mean, like, old man's got abs, dude. That's just insane. So much text on this one. It's awesome. Or even if you play the combination of the two, you would also be able to, you know, pitch cards for the plus 2,000 power for the Zat, or even like just reactivate it if you have the backups for it. So it's quite nice. This one definitely a little bit harder if you go with the no backup route, but if you have like the 2 backups out, then you can definitely reactivate it as well. Kind of cool, but just so much value if you build a deck around this card. Loving it, and I mean, in case you even chance the fact that you combine it with ice, or this is that, then it would actually get that effect as well for the Zat, where you become a 9,000 power forward with Brave, which is pretty darn cool. All right. Next up, Condor. So it only triggers if Condor's already in play, if you play your 5th backup, and only on your 5th backup, so unless you have a way to either break or return backups to your hand. I mean, there's definitely a few from Miyun, because I can't spell her name. Is it 2 N's? There you go. From Miyun to return a backup to your hand when you play it for the 5th. Actually, even then, it won't work. Yeah. You'll have to be able to break your backups. There's definitely a lot of breakable backups. And the trigger is awesome, though. I mean, being a 4-drop 8K is nice. Being able to activate all wind characters under that Condor when it attacks is huge. I could see people try to build decks around it. Definitely, like, I mean, we talked about it before, and I can't spell that either. All right, Riku. Being able to reactivate Riku and just do all these shenanigans where you keep milling your opponent is nice. It's a multi-card, you can have multiples of it, but it seems like a lot of setup, and you have to get to 5 backups, and you have to get this card on the field before you get to 5 backups, or break a backup to go to 5 backups again afterwards. So a lot of work, but a really cool effect. Okay, Cactuar Conductor. I think it's pretty cool. Being able to prevent the next damage dealt to your forward when it enters the field. So if you're swinging in with a AK and your opponent has an AK blocker, possible blocker, and you play Cactuar Conductor in your first main phase, go to your attack phase and just straight up attack. If they were to block with it, like they should block with it, obviously, because otherwise your forward, your attacker, will not take damage and their blocker will. So that could be a thing, but I don't know. But second effect's kind of nice. There's in terms of dealing with forwards, for the most part, people will have to deal damage to it. There's obviously break effects and remove from game as well, but the main way people deal with forwards is through damage. And being able to use that effect is nice, but it is going to cost you quite a bit. 2 other win CP and doling it. Is it going to have a place? 2 CP backups for wind is a little bit crowded. The effect is nice, but not game breaking. Alright, Thief, another card that could definitely start milling your opponent. It's a category 5 also, so that's kind of nice. And hold on, let's go back. Well, no, we'll skip on that part, but actually, well, actually maybe not. Cactuar Conductor is World of Final Fantasy, so if you want to go with, was it Hayun? My goodness, I really should memorize some of these names. Let's say hi. Nope. There you go. So when you want to get to that 5 or more characters, this would add up for it too. Okay. All right. Sorry about that little interlude there. All right, you'll be able to mill stuff, but is it worth it? Is it game breaking? Does it win you games? Well, being able to draw a card off of it is a chance, especially against mono element decks. Turbo Discard isn't a mono element deck, but I don't think you're gonna try to mill them out. But other decks, I mean, most other decks I've seen that are at the top of the meta, the ones that I worry about the most, are 2 element decks. So it's not always gonna fire. So you have to focus on the part that's just gonna do the first effect. The second effect is a bit of a bonus if you're lucky. But 2 cards, is it going to win you the game? Sometimes it will, but most of the time it probably won't do much. Okay. Next up we got Zoo, who has been the talk of the town in terms of all these little combos. How many times am I going to bring up Riku in this? I mean, Wind and Riku just, okay. Being able to reactivate all your backups. So this one is not restricted to fire or to wind backups only, or wind characters. So you'll be able to do pretty cool stuff. Also being able to discard it and choose up to 2 backups to activate. That is pretty cool because Riku plus another wind backup will be able to at least go with that first effect, or if you have another Riku in hand, go for the mug. Alright, Shalinka, we talked about it before, works well with that Al-Halaim. Al-Halaim card, as well as with Yuri, because Yuri is also a Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles card that deals damage. It has one of the effects. I'll go over this card when I go over, what was it, Water, Light, and Dark cards. But when it enters the field, it also includes itself with that little bonus, right? So whenever Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles character you control deals damage to a forward, you increase that damage. So right here when it says 1000 damage when it enters the field, that's actually 2000 damage to all forwards you put in control. So it doesn't target, and it will actually be 2000. 1000 plus the 1000 bonus here. And if you do a party attack with the 2, you can choose a forward or monster and break it. That's kind of cool. How often are you going to do that? I'm not sure. But keep in mind that Yuri does count for all elements except for dark, so that does include wind. So that's why you could party attack with the two. Chocobo, a multi-card, World of Final Fantasy. So Hayun, you know what I'm talking about. Does count it too. 2 draw 4K is okay. The effect is huge, but if for any reason you're the forward that you target with it leaves the field, it's a 2-for-1. They're able to get rid of Chocobo as well as the other forward, and it did happen to me in limited. I didn't think my opponent was going to have something like did they have Leviathan? Yeah, they did have Leviathan. That's what happened. Yeah, they Leviathan. They returned the forward I targeted to my hand, and yeah, so they waited for the effect to go on. The other forward that I had got the 3000 power, and then they returned it to my hand, and then I lost my Chocobo and the other forward. So that sent me back, and that definitely put me in a world of pain. 7 units though, and it's a pretty cool card. It looks like it'd be useful if, I don't know, for some odd reason you wanted to go with Gull Wings. Because one of the problems that I've had with watching some of these Gull Wings deck is that they tend to not be that big. And so Chocobo would be one way to give them a boost, but there's other cards like Waka now that came out that you could use in order to boost any of your category 10 forwards, including the Gull Wings, to get them through. That's pretty cool. And the Gull Wings are just amazing, but they're not in this sense. I'm not going to focus too much into discussing them until I get to, well, Waka. Alright, Dorgan. Interesting card. There's been some rulings. We're still waiting for confirmation from the Square Enix rulings team to explain everything that happens with this card. Keep in mind that even if you were to so let's say Dorgan removed 1 or 2 forwards from the game, then you were to remove his ability, he would lose his ability text or whatever through, let's say, oh my goodness, there's some really picky names nowadays. Let's see, oh gosh, let's look for Queen. There we go. Halicarnassus, for example. If your opponent plays Halicarnassus and for some odd reason Dorgan leaves the field afterwards after he lost his text, the forwards that he removed will still return to the game. I mean, if you read it, it's remove it from the game. It's removed as long as Dorgan is on the field, but if he leaves the field, even with his text off, the effect, the forwards will still return to the field. If you were to, for example, use Dorgan, have Dorgan in play a backup, and target a forward. If your opponent removed Dorgan with that effect still on the stack, the forward would not even be removed to begin with, because Dorgan would not be on the field when he tried to remove it. We're still waiting to see if just blanking Dorgan's ability text when he has already removed forwards from the field will affect things, but we haven't gotten confirmation on that quite yet. But 4,000 power, 4 CP, 8,000 power, category 5, Dawn Warrior does have some implications such as Kelger, being able to play it out off the top of the real 5, or if you use the Opus 3 version, being able to play it from your hand for free. It's kind of nice, and the effect, I'll have to wait and see how good it is. I do see that the meta has a lot of enter the field abilities at the moment, and when the forwards return to the field, they will trigger those enter the field effects again. So that's something to be aware of, to be careful about. And there's a chance that you leave yourself open for some really bad things to happen if Dorgan were to be removed from the game after you got his effect off a couple times. Keep in mind there's a couple tricks you can do with backups, such as, let's see, Vaughn. This Vaughn could return backups to your hand, so that's one way to go about it. Or if you had like the Yoon to return backups to your hand because it's a character, other than herself that you control, or even, yeah, Rosh in the set is also able to return a backup to your hand. So that's something kind of interesting if people want to combo off of him. But I think he's fine as a standalone, and maybe uh, you could say a closer where you just want to remove one forward from the game that might bother you. So that's definitely an option. Um, I think it's an interesting card. It's a double-edged sword, but we'll have to see if it actually makes a big deal. I mean, playing this early on against, let's say, Turbo Discard, you could get rid of some forwards that way by playing him first, then playing your backups and removing some of their threats. But you have to be very careful as to have Dorgan stay alive the whole time. Otherwise, you're gonna have to deal with all those enter the field effects from discarding all those mini cards and maybe like dull and freezing or breaking based on like Sid Allseed and Genesis. So you do leave yourself quite open with this double-edged sword. Okay, next up we got Nash. EX Burst, that's kind of nice. 4-drop, 7,000 power, that's under curve. Being able to choose one forward of cost 1 or one monster of cost 2 that open controls and to be able to break it. I don't think Win has too many ways, is lacking too many ways to get rid of monsters. I mean, there's Alexander, for example. This Alexander was always available. Any cost, monsters of any cost, being able to break it has always been there. Also, EX Burst. I don't see this card coming up very often. Even with a job Archer, I don't think Archer makes a big difference. So I don't expect to see it make much of a splash. Ninja, 4-drop, AK, multi-card, category 5 standard unit. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, oh man, I kind of wish I didn't have to go over all these, but part of this set made categories as well as job classes a lot more relevant. So you have to look at all the synergies. So it is taking me longer to go over these set reviews now. When Ninja enters the field, if you play Fire Wind, you'll be able to turn this into a bit of a old school Furion. Anybody that remembers this card, you can see a bit of the resemblance here, the effects. So that's pretty cool. Is Fire Wind a big deal? I haven't seen it yet. I do have a lot of hopes for Fire. We went over the set review, and we'll have to see. All right, Bartz. You can read all the effects here. He is a Warrior of Light in this case, though, so that is relevant. He's not a Wanderer. He doesn't have no jobs. He doesn't have all jobs. He doesn't gain extra jobs, but Warrior of Light is a relevant thing. I'm going to go over Warrior of Light in a little bit, but first I'm going to go over the other Bards that you might include in your Bard stack from the one that reactivates Wind. So if you go Mono Wind, you can definitely have this one as a part of it too, especially since you can give it Haste and Brave and attack 3 times this turn. Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen very often. I really like the first effect. 5,000 damage is really nice. And first strike 10,000 is not bad. 3-drop 7k is on curve. But let's look at the other bars available. Alright, haven't seen this one as much, but really cool for has all the jobs. This one was pretty cool too. Similar, I mean, if you have enough forwards out, like this guy's pretty cool. Just like even with 3 forwards, having haste first strike is kind of nice, but at 5, like having a 9,000 power forward with haste, brave, first strike, attacks twice a turn. I mean, I would pick this card to use more often if you wanted the 5,000 damage to be more to use it more often, especially against, let's say, well, thaumaturges. Be able to reactivate 2 5 characters, that does matter because, as I mentioned in the set, there's a lot of backups from category 5. So let's take a look at category 5. backups, and you can see that there's a decent amount of them. And right here, like all of these have been added in Opus 7, or in Opus 7, including X-Stack. All right, so the other ones were in 3, but anyways, yeah, this part is interesting. I don't know how much of a splash it's gonna make. If you want that 5,000 damage though, from discarding a card, that is for the special. That is pretty cool. Getting the rapid fire, if I see that on stream, I would just go bonkers. But I don't see it happening too often because obviously that means you have 3 bars in hand with this bars, but you could definitely end game if you were to pull it off, but it does seem like a very greedy play. Alright, Bartholomew, father card goes well with Hope, because, well, I think he searches out Hope. A couple of different versions. Oh, let me clear that out too. And not back up. There we go. That'll make a difference. So we've got this Hope you could search for if you wanted to. And let's see, open to the field, choose one backup and control, activate it. Yeah, haven't seen this one used almost ever. Haven't seen much of this one either, personally, but there's some cool combos to be had with, being able to reactivate forwards. And it does, you could treat this card as a 2-draw 5k because you get to draw a card out of it, but not draw a card out of it. You get to search a card named Alexander out of it and add it to your hand. So technically you get a 2 CP reduction out of it. Or if it's on EX Burst, you still get that card anyways. But that also means you're playing Alexander, which I'll look up in a little bit. But the main one I do think that is going to work well with Bartholomew would be, well, this version of Hope, where if there's a job father and mother, he gets a plus 2,000 power and can be chosen by opposing abilities. I think that's really cool. The other effect, being able to activate it and give it plus 1,000, like this is a very telegraph move, as your opponent, as long as they're paying attention, will be able to see that you have that available to you. So they probably will try to trade into it, and it is a category 13 character as well. Oh, and in terms of Alexander's, I'll look it up later. Well, actually, you know what? I can't really spell well. Ha! Alright, so we've got OG Alexander over here, being able to break 5,000 forwards of cost 5 or more. We've got this one, 9,000 power or more. And, well, we went over this card early. Yeah, I did go over this card a little bit earlier. And I also went over this card earlier. Alright, so we're going to move on. Windrake, I think, is a pretty nifty card. Also, on top of the fact that it's an EX Burst, this could help against, well, Turbo Discard or very aggressive decks, where getting you to be able to curve out your backups to build into your mid game is usually what you want to do against. It's something that you hope to do against Turbo Discard, which you don't always have the luxury of doing, because playing out a backup that doesn't do anything against Turbo Discard is going to hurt. They're going to come in, they're going to attack you, and they're going to chip down at you and not give you many turns to actually play the game at all. Being able to buy yourself out one turn with Windrake, for example, and build out your backups that way goes a long way. On top of being an EX Burst, I mean, 2 drops, 2 CP for backup is big. EX Burst is big. Being able to slow down the aggression and hopefully stabilize against aggressive decks by preventing them from attacking for a turn is, well, it's not a freeze effect, but it does feel like you somehow dull and froze them for a turn, especially if you don't have a blocker. Alright, Hope. Okay, job mother and father. So, let's take a look. Mother. Alright. We've got OG EX Burst Nora being able to search out for Hope, so that would help. And we do have Ilaria, that's also a mother. We talked about her earlier. And we'll talk about fathers. I think they both came from this set. From Latov, counting as a father, so we play Wind, Fire, you'll be able to play this card, as well as Bartholomew. Darn. And there we go. As well as Bartholomew, your father, we just literally talked about. Okay. Next up, we got Rem. So, one thing to remember, like, yeah, she's an EX birth, but you have to. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Old school Rem. There we go. So, you have to compare the two. And also, Type 0 is relevant. They were both EX bursts. I would advise you to consider using this card over this card for the most part, being able to get when you're playing category, or when you're playing a deck that's based on Class 0 cadets. This one definitely being able to pick out any Type 0 card from your hand, from your break zone is quite nice. This one, on the other hand, is more proactive in terms that it goes out and searches for them from your deck. But this one, like as a backup, it stays around, and there are times when a Class 0 cadet is relevant. So let's look up Class 0 cadet, and well, there's a decent amount of them, as you can see. Okay. Some to note are, let's see, I think 9 is quite good. But yes, so if he has other, for each, including himself, he gets a plus 1000 power boost. So a 4-drop 9k whenever 9 attacks. If he attacks by himself, for example, he could target himself or give that boost to other forwards. And another one to note, obviously, is if you play a drop Class 0 cadet forward stacks, Ace is one of the main cards that you build around, so that's definitely something to consider. So you could search it out with Rem, which is quite nice, and kind of build out that way if you want to go in that direction. But if you were to go the other way around, the Rem would be able to get you any of the ones that you might have pitched. And now let's go over the, let's see, Type 0 card. Well, yeah, we're not gonna go with Type 0 cards. They're not relevant for this RAM. But how do I feel about it? I think it's all right, but I do like the 4 CP backup better. But if you were to play more proactively, then this would be something to consider to put into your deck. Okay, and that's it for Wind. Just want to remind people also that I will be going over the starter cards, which were not part of the regular set. They were available in your booster boxes as foils if you got them, and there are elements from, well, Wind. There are cards from Wind and Fire and other elements as well in that deck. I'll go over the specific Opus 7 cards from the starter decks as I go over the Water, Light, and Dark set review. And I want to thank you guys again for dropping by. Feel free to add any comments or questions down below, and go over to our YouTube channel as well. That's where the videos will stay there forever. Also, if we reach 800 subscribers on our YouTube channel, we'll be doing a giveaway, letting the person that's picked at random pick out between a certain set of prizes that we'll be giving away. And at this time, I think we have 748 subscribers. So feel free to hop over to our YouTube channel, check it out. Thanks to our sponsors, MagicTechGames.com. Anybody that is currently a subscriber or will be a subscriber by the time we reach 800 subscribers will get to pick between Dominaria, Mox Opal, Mox Amber, not Mox Opal. It's a Mox Amber Dominaria. Okay. Horizon Canopy from Iconic Masters. Cactuar Sleeves, the 60-pack. Lightning Plushie. And the Toronto deck box Shiva with Saru Kageyama's signature. That's one of the producers of the game. So thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see. Do I have enough time to do one more? Ah. All right, I'm gonna take a small break. I'm gonna come back a couple minutes, and I will try to do the Earth set review. See you in a bit.